Merry Christmas, everybody! Hope you all have been good this year so you don't get eaten by the Krampus. But just in case, though, we are going to make our own Krampus, so the real Krampus just gets confused and a little bit scared and hopefully just runs away. Starting off, we are making an easy DIY prosthetic with a mixture of liquid latex and flour. Shout out to Ellie Max for this technique. I am building it on an actual face cast that I have of my face, which is convenient for correct sizing, but you can always just use a foam head from the craft store. Just make sure to coat it with a thin layer of Vaseline, coconut oil, or something sort of similar so that the prosthetic is easier to remove. Here I am just using my fingers to generously apply the mixture and then shaping it into a thicker version of my natural chin shape, basically, making sure to leave a harsh edge right where my bottom lip would naturally be. Then with some fresh liquid latex on your finger, you want to lightly run your finger all across the prosthetic to give it a nice smooth texture. And once we are happy with the shape, we can start cutting up some fake nails for teeth. I recommend cutting them into varying sizes so that there is a lot of dimension in the teeth. I got this pack of nail tips from Sally's Beauty. Any kind will work just fine, just make sure that they are long enough for you to cut them down into the size and the shape that you want. Also, cutting the bottom part of the teeth into a rounded shape actually help it to look like it's naturally coming out of the gums. So, as we cut them down, we are randomly placing and staggering them all along the gum line that we created already, pressing them into the prosthetic so that the latex mixture actually starts to look risen next to the edges of the teeth. And after we are happy with the amount and the placement of the teeth, we can take a little bit more of that latex mixture and spread it all along the bottom edges of the teeth to make it appear that the teeth are actually under the skin. Then we are going to let that dry at least overnight. And once it's dry, it's time for the fun part, the paint. Here I am using the Temp 2 Trauma Alcohol Activated palette with 99% isopurple alcohol and layering reds, yellows, blues, purples, and a lot of black until I like the effect. Focusing a lot of that black right around and in between the edges of the teeth. Then for the actual teeth, layering a bit of browns, blacks, and reds, but mostly a lot of yellow to get that dulled and dirty effect. For a look like this, I actually do highly recommend using a water or alcohol activated paint palette because they give kind of like this skin-like sheer wash of color rather than a thick pigment that the grease paints tend to give. So basically they look more natural. Hey look, now we're outside where it's way too bright to not be wearing sunglasses, but I'm going to burn my eyes anyways because do it for the tube, I guess. Anyways, here we are dusting a generous amount of translucent powder all over the prosthetic so that it doesn't stick to itself during the removal, as well as adding the powder underneath the prosthetic as we gently and patiently pull it off the face cast. I'll be honest, I really kind of was winging it with this look. I knew what I wanted in terms of the prosthetic piece, but the rest of my face was pretty much on the fly. So you'll see me kind of skip around, so apologies in advance. But first things first, I am applying a foundation that is a little bit lighter than my skin tone to start the dulling effect. This step probably wasn't entirely necessary, so if you want to skip it, I totally think you can. Then make sure that you black out the area all around the mouth to give it the illusion of receding. I first started with the alcohol paints, but then they didn't give me the pigment that I wanted, so I switched over to good old black eyeshadow. Oh, and say hi to Hillary in the background. Anyways, it's important to do this before you start applying the prosthetic because the teeth are in the way of pretty much everything after you put it on. Seriously, I couldn't eat for about 8 hours after putting this on. So make sure you eat a hearty meal and drink lots of water as well. Then I applied a light layer of liquid latex, and once it dried, I peeled it upwards into these vague kind of teeth shapes. My goal here was really just to give the skin behind the prosthetic some kind of cool texture. I also brought that black eyeshadow all into my nose holes and elongating them upwards to make them look large and in charge. Then I started to paint the rest of my skin red, but then I decided that I should make my cheekbones more prominent. So I am forever layering liquid latex and toilet paper to slowly and patiently build up the cheekbones, using smaller pieces as I get towards the end to really make sure that the center of the cheekbone really pops. Surprisingly enough, I really liked using toilet paper here. I would normally use tissues, but toilet paper was my only resource here, and I don't think I'm ever going back. With the toilet paper, I got a much more skin-like texture than I ever have with any tissues. And once we've built up the cheeks to our liking and we've thoroughly caffeinated, we can apply our prosthetic. First, lay down a layer of latex onto the application area, then carefully press the prosthetic over it from the middle of the prosthetic, and then lay down the edges appropriately. After it's securely in place, go ahead and start blending the edges by layering liquid latex over them. If you feel like you need to layer any toilet paper with the liquid latex over it to get a soft blend, go ahead and do that. I had to do that in some places, but I really didn't have to do that much because my edges were pretty good with this prosthetic. Then we are going back to finish the paint job that we started, layering those same red, yellow, purple, blue, and black colors that we used for the prosthetic. Then applying the black eyeshadow all around the eye area. Honestly, didn't spend a lot of time on the eyes because I knew that my hood was going to cover them most of the time. Here was my inspiration pick. Clearly, our main focus here is the prosthetic. So basically, I really just wanted to darken my eye area to keep it from distracting from the prosthetic. Then to further accentuate our protruding features, we are going to get that Kim K contour on, you know what I'm saying? Basically, just apply black right underneath your fake cheekbones and make them pop. Sleepy Hillary. Don't forget to take everything down the neck so that, you know, everything looks cohesive. And then here I am just trying on my hood to see where it hits to make sure I have my details in the right places. Then apply some fake pointy nails and paint your hands and any other showing skin with the same tones that we previously used. And lastly, we are taking a bunch of loose gray hair and applying it sparsely all along the jawline by laying down a layer of liquid latex, then pressing the hair on top of it, and with light pressure putting a light layer of liquid latex over it. So we have latex underneath the hair and on top of the hair, so it's very secure. And what I'm trying to show you guys here is that after we finished applying the hair, we shaped the beard into this V shape with some scissors. And here, all the hair coming off of my head is literally just one long group of hair that we just pinned the middle of it to the middle of my head and then let it fall naturally off the sides of my head. Shout out to Megan for shaping it up by using some common hairdressing texturizing techniques like point cutting and slicing. And for the final step, the cherry on top, a nice bowl ring. This is totally not something that I've seen in any of the Krampus versions that I've seen, but definitely thought it would be a really cool addition. I made this little guy super easily by bending some of the thickest crafting wire that I could find, and then just putting a couple of dots of hot glue right on the ends where it touches my nose so that it would be more comfortable. Still tickled though. If you like this video, make sure to check out some of my other SFX tutorials like this DIY clown prosthetics video that I made. And the best way to support my channel is simply sharing this video with your friends and your fam. Thank you guys so much for watching. Wishing you all a very, very Merry Christmas.